Man, the like 1 a.m. like escrow thoughts are wild. Am I showing up enough for my team? What could I be doing better for my daughter?
What's up, guys? Today we have special guest Jared Musser with us today. He's a real estate agent who is investor friendly here in Hawaii, doing over $30 million a year. Welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, like when we're in the real estate investing space here in Hawaii, and there's a lot of different like agents we interact with. Some we have like great experiences, some we have not so great experiences, I think. And you're one of the guys who we've always had a great experience with, and we've kind of seen like the way you conduct your business and your journey. And we know you're crushing it on the business side. We know that you are a very cool guy, but you also work with investors. So I thought it would be really cool to kind of like give your take on real estate in Hawaii and just real estate investing in Hawaii.
Yeah, no, I'd love to dive in. Sounds fun.
So, I mean, like maybe a little bit background about yourself. How did you get into real estate? How were you born and raised here? How did the journey start?
So not born and raised here. I was born and raised in Utah. I'm one of the few non-Mormons that you'll ever meet from Utah. All the cliches are true. Nothing against Mormons.
You know what's funny? So I took a trip to Utah kind of recently, and one of the things I noticed was like everybody there is so nice.
So
like,
nice.
Like they're so genuine. And honestly, like if I didn't live in Hawaii, I feel like Utah would be a big like a potential place to, just because like the culture and like just like the feel of the town is just so genuine. Everyone's just so helping and giving. Yeah,
high family values. One of the things I really love about Utah is it grows up in a very rooted, you take care of your neighbor kind of way. It's got its own version of aloha.
Yeah.
And with that, there's obviously a lot of kind of one size fits all religion there. So if you're not part of that, then it can be kind of complicated, which was my story growing up. And not to dive too much into some of my complication around being a kid, but I had kind of a broken childhood growing up, some struggles along the way. My best friend was born and raised on Kauai, local family. He grew up in Wailua homesteads, and his parents split up. His dad was from Utah, mom from Hawaii. And so he spent a lot of time there. We went to school together, and he invited me to live with his family in Wailua homesteads for what was supposed to be about 6 months.
So this was when you were in 20.
When I was 20.
So you moved to Kauai when you were in your 20s.
Yeah, and it's ironic because I had to go across the Pacific Ocean to live with a local family, Hawaiian family in Hawaiian homesteads. And they really taught me what it is to have family values, to really have them, to really embody them. And it was one of the most transformative experiences for me.
Yeah.
Being there for a good chunk of my 20s, I learned so much along. I mean, there's so many embarrassing things I could jump into. I didn't know how to surf or swim when I first moved to Hawaii. Anyway, I was,
so you got to Kauai with your buddy.
Yeah.
And then how did you get started with real estate as a
so I worked in hotels, for almost 10 years. So I was Grand Hyatt Kauai.
Here in Hawaii.
Yeah, here in Hawaii. And so it was Grand Hyatt Kauai, and then I got job promotion. Actually, my job promotion offer was in Southern California.
Okay.
And so I moved there. I lived in Orange County and between Orange County and LA for about 7 years altogether. And I got burned out right away when I moved there. Working hotels. I didn't feel very connected with the environment. My auntie here was a very well-known real estate agent back in the day. And she said to me, I think you would be good in this industry. And you should give it a shot. And I had all my perspective about real estate agents.
What were your thoughts on? I mean, like, there's a wide range of like perspectives. I feel like on real estate agents.
I think it's just honestly, I hate to say it, I hate to admit it. And I think even now in 2024, it's probably worse than ever. But because of all the TV shows and even the what was a $1 million listing agent back then or whatever was on TV, I was like, I don't like these guys.
I feel like there's a wide range of like personalities in in everything in life, right?
100%.
But whenever you're an entrepreneur or an industry where like it's like you have to influence people, right? Like there's a lot of different ways to influence people. And I think as investors or real estate agents or even like, let's say like personalities, influence or whatever, it's like there's a lot of different ways to be successful, but like they're very more like kind of getting after it, very like pushy kind of person. Like they can have a lot of success in this industry because you're trying to influence people in a certain way. Yeah. And I feel like that particular personality turns people off at times.
I totally agree. And that was my perspective is these guys are always hand in the pocket and what's in it for me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sold on the idea that real estate agents could be ethical and people-centric first and all these other things. And started reading some books. Yeah. Read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read a couple other books that were real estate related. Yeah, very informative and transformational for me. and met some real estate agents that were cool guys. They were guys that I could see myself in them, you know, in 5 years, 10 years. And so I got my license. I joined a team in Southern California in LA, Team Echo. Shout out to Brandon Lauder and Tammy Facher too. They were incredible mentors, but they were investors.
Okay.
And
so investors and agents at the same time.
Yeah, and they were doing their version of PML back then, and all these other ways to structure a deal. But they were doing between 60 to 80 units a year on Skeleton Crew,
and with just two guys.
It was technically three. They had this guy Matt, who's the acquisitions guy. And so they didn't really they'd bring in help when they kind of needed it, but it was kind of sloppy, you know. And when I came in, I was a listing coordinator, buyer agent, and I was all over the map. All over LA map. If you look, it's funny. If you pulled up Zillow and looked at my my sales history in LA back then, it looked like someone had their eyes closed and they were just throwing darts around LA. But what it taught me is how to learn a market quickly, how to operate on your feet quickly, how to break down and simplify what makes a deal work in certain neighborhoods. So I kind of like backed my way into the investor space, not even knowing it.
I mean, those are all really important skills as an investor. Like you need to know the market, you need to know what makes things tick, what cash flows, what doesn't, how to run numbers, what the value of things are. I think one of the biggest things that I think newer investors run into is like not realizing how much something is worth, whether they undervalue it or overvalue it. That's the things that can really shoot yourself in the foot.
Totally agree. Yeah. And hearing just even, I think the problem and the hardship for anyone new to the industry on the real estate agent sales side is exposure to the deal, exposure to negotiations.
What do you mean by that? Can you
like just not having enough experience right out the gate. Like we have all this training and coaching and podcasts and books and all these other things, and unless you're really hands-on in a deal or you hear what's happening with a deal, how do you go out and operate in the world and serve a client at the highest level without having that exposure?
I see.
And so I just being able to hear Brandon and Tammy have these conversations and go these consultations and kind of shadow.
So you were kind of like a fly in the wall. You got to like by osmosis just be around it and kind of absorb it.
That's a great way to put it, by osmosis. I was just in it, and I didn't know how valuable that was at the time. But so to make a long story a little bit less long, I was with them for about 2.5 years. I ended up kind of outgrowing that position, branching out on my own. Had a very successful solo business. Had a business partner that I'd work with in LA too. COVID hits. I have a 4.5-year-old daughter. We always knew that we wanted to be back in Hawaii. I have my Hanai family, adopted family, my ex's family, who I'm still very close with. And so we knew we wanted to be back here. Compass, my brokerage, they decided they're going to open up in Hawaii.
Okay.
And they needed help doing that, so I was there to help them with that process.
So you helped launch Compass in Hawaii. Very cool.
Yeah, and that was an incredible opportunity too.
What are kind of like the challenges so when you're opening a new brokerage, like in a new location, what's the thought process, what's the game plan, and what are kind of like the challenges you guys are facing?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of the Compass is a mainline brand. It's a mainline brokerage. And so the roots and the knowledge here, even though they were talking to people who are, born and raised, multi-generational local people, who really understand the culture, and they're speaking to, which I think is the most important part of the sensitivity of just housing here, the sensitivity of the real estate industry here, and how you go into it as respectful and conscious as you possibly can, and not try to carpet bomb with, no, we're from the mainland and we're a technology brokerage and this is how we're going to do it. So none of that, turning the volume down on all that. And making sure we have the right people in place. Of course, location matters too. We have two awesome offices, one on the Windward side, one in Kahala. We're going to open up a new one on the North Shore pretty soon too. But it was, I'd say in terms of priority, it was the right people with the right attitude and the right intentions.
When in the real estate industry, like we kind of talked about before, there's a lot of different ways to go about doing business, right? And you can be successful like both ways. You can be like kind of over the top, pushy, and kind of like force your way in. Or I feel like your style is more like a more humble or kind of like a gentle approach. And I think both of them are successful. They're just different.
They're just different. Yeah. And I'm trying to get better at that something's just different and it's not better or worse. I tend to think real estate agents should err on the side of gentle, humble, like be assertive, stick up for your clients, learn how to negotiate effectively, all those things. But you're already working against a general public who thinks you have weird motives.
Yeah.
So,
it's funny. We meet so many sellers here who just, for whatever reason, they just hate real estate agents.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro. So like, we meet with these guys. They're like, hey, like, dude, if like your house does not need a renovation, you should just list it with an agent. You get like $1 million. We'll give you 800 cash. Like, but like,
yeah.
They're like, no, I hate agents. Like, I don't want to work with agents. I don't want to give them any money. It's just like this stigma that I guess a lot of agents have. And I think it's probably just a few bad apples that kind of just poison like the whole, this perception of agents in general.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of bad apples. Mm-hmm. And it's, this whole thing with the NAR commission lawsuit and the way that the industry is changing through politics, through technology, through culture. I think we're going through a massive software update as an industry.
I mean, the whole world in general is going through this technology overhaul, right? Like it's almost like what is it called? Like a renaissance, not a renaissance, but like the industrial revolution.
Yeah,
kind of thing,
revolution.
Right? So like it's social media, technology, AI, all these different things. I mean, the real estate industry, the investor industry, like banking across the board is like there's a huge shift that's like happening, and we're right in the middle of it.
I agree, and I think there's, because of the transparency of technology, there's no place to hide. There's no place to hide. If especially in Hawaii, it's such a small community. If you do wrong by somebody, word gets around. It can end up on social media.
The coconut grapevine, right?
The coconut wireless, and your reputation here, more than any other place that I've worked in or experienced, is everything. Mm-hmm, and I love that about here.
I mean, I feel like, you worked in California, you worked in Hawaii. Was there a big difference in the culture of the real estate industry?
Yeah, I mean, I was in LA too.
Okay, I mean, so LA is cutthroat. I feel like
it is. I'd say, and people get surprised when I say this. So LA, like all the ego that comes with LA, that's kind of par for course. Yeah, the people there are going to be a lot more like ego, how I look, how I can out negotiate someone, even if it's not what the client wants, just so I can win and put a notch in the belt. There is some of that in LA, but I'd say generally, because the price points are so high in LA, not too dissimilar from Hawaii, but they are so high in LA that people can get away with selling less and doing a mediocre job. Where in Hawaii, you're working with a culture of real estate agents that are already pretty tight knit. So you have to kind of be accepted in here
to break into the industry.
To break into the industry here, and you have to be respectful and you have to be good.
I mean, so I'm trying to understand why that is. So because you're representing your client, right? So why does it matter if other agents like you or dislike you?
Because who you work with matters in a deal if you're locked in an escrow for 30, 45, 60 days. And it could be the difference in terms of how they are negotiating, how they're presenting something to a buyer or a seller. Do you have faith and confidence that they're going to be good at their job, that they're going to do it with aloha, that they're going to do it in a way that's conducive to collaboration, which is so much of the culture here, I feel. Or are they amateur hour, ego driven? I'm not saying that does not exist here, but there's a lot less of it. Man, is it refreshing.
I mean, so I've had a really similar experience, I think, being on the mainland, I'm going to some different meetups, meeting other investors in general. I think LA especially is very cutthroat. Like everybody's just trying to get their piece of the pie. And no offense, that it works for some people, right? But in Hawaii, what I found at least in the investor community is everybody's trying to give. And so more than when you go to a meetup, they're like, how can I help you? How can I help you succeed, even at the cost to myself? And I really love that vibe. I've heard that it wasn't always like that here, but I think with the new batch of investors, they kind of brought a thing where I think social media also helps with that too, because there's a social media you're always giving to build your brand, etc. But just Hawaii has a really cool investor culture, and I don't know if it mirrors in that real estate side.
It's the first time I've seen it, and it's the only place I've seen it. I have not as big of a following as you on social, but I do follow a lot of people in the community, investor and retail agents and all these other people that are in what you would call Hawaii's referral markets or feeder markets, people in Vegas, people in California, people in New York, people in the Midwest. And it's interesting because it's really you, Kamohai, a few other local investors that we all mutually know, and also agents here who are really kind of leading the way. And I like to think I'm part of that group too, is give it all away. Teach, mentor, help, because I do think that raises the bar overall for the whole community here in Hawaii. And I do think that will extrapolate to the mainland too, sooner or later.
I think when I first started, when you think of that concept of just giving things away, right? Like, why would you, like, I think the old school mentality is like, you just keep everything tight-fisted because you don't want to share. But the new school like mentality is like, just give away as much value as you can. And then just it magically comes back. And I think it's almost like now seeing like the full cycle of things. Like in the beginning, it wasn't to get anything, but we realized like 10x times just from giving a lot away. So if I had to go back and do it again over, I think like the more you give, the more like you're going to actually receive.
I totally believe that. I believe that as a life philosophy, you know, real estate aside. I think it's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot more collaborative. It's a lot more like makes my heart feel good, you know. And I think it's the way the world should be. I don't want to preach from the mountaintop. I'm working on it, you know, but I think it's a good way to be.
Yeah. So when you're going back to the I guess the community or the importance of being accepted into the real estate community, like I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. So like, let's say you're a new agent and like you don't know anybody or you rub a lot of people the wrong way. What are like the negative consequences of something like that?
Oh, that's tough. That's really tough here. I'm grateful to say I don't know. I don't know from a personal perspective. I guess maybe I can like break that down on the reverse side of it, that what you can create if you come into, I think Hawaii is very simple. I think Hawaii can get very, people can judge Hawaii for, oh, if you're not from here, you get judged this way and you'll never be in and all this other stuff. I think there's a very basic code here of respect and empathy and showing that you actually care about people before profit. I really believe that if those core tenets are in place, sooner or later you get accepted. And my experience here, I worked with my previous business partner right when I moved here with Sean Yano. This was great because he's very well connected here and introduced me to a lot of people. And eventually we split ways, totally on good terms, but kind of outgrew that position. But what I've created through more of a grassroots effort of just being in community with people and doing things from a place of being helpful. And I'm going to be honest, it's a combination of every old school, new school thing on the planet. Like it's door knocking, it's writing letters, it's cold calling.
So one of the things is like, there's no substitute for hard work. Right? Like so you can be pushy and you can crush it. You can be gentle and you can crush it. You can be like giving and can crush it, or you can take and crush it. But then I feel like the one key thing is like, it's all like built and supported by hard work, right? That's going to push you to, and whatever brand you build over here is like, it's the hard work is going to lead to your success.
I agree. And I do think both of those things, if you were to compare the more like, self-interest side to the giving side. I think the giving side, yes, hard work is the foundation for both, but I think the giving route eventually will exceed 10x.
It's kind of like I kind of equate it, I'd say like just thinking this as an analogy is like maybe like a flip versus like a rental. So like let's say like the pushy, or you kind of like charging is like the flip, you get like the money fast, right? You get it immediately. And so like you'll get more immediate wins if you're just kind of like cutthroat and you kind of like push for yourself. But in the giving side is like the rental, where over the long period of time, like you might lose here, but over the long term, what you're going to build as like the more giving side is going to be like a lot bigger and a lot like stronger.
No, that's a good analogy. So on the opposite side of that, just to finish that point, it's just been a lot of hard work, consistency. Social media for me has been the biggest blessing.
Really?
You know, putting myself out there, honestly myself, like my quirks, my downfalls, the things I'm passionate about. I'm so passionate about being a dad. I have such a goofy and weird sense of humor. I put a lot of that out. I'm passionate about being fit and healthy and taking accountability for how we show up with people. And I'm passionate about real estate. And all those ingredients are the soup of my social media presence. And I don't know what it's been over the last 2.5 years, but the referrals locally and some of the feeder markets on the mainland it's been almost half my business.
I mean, I think it's partially like social media has been big for us too. I think it's like it opens up like your opportunities just to a wider audience, but it also comes down to like the way that you conduct yourselves. And so like we work with like different agents in the past, and so we had a transaction together, and I just want to say like you are like you're one of our favorite agents to work with. Like,
Thank you.
Just like with the wide range, and that's kind of like why we're going back to your point of like when you're kind of accepted or you're more favorable. When we're selling a house and we're like, hey, here's a different like offers in. We also look at who the agent is representing, because the one agent can like handle the objections, the expectations. They're a lot smoother. They're more like, we can negotiate together, like with a fair way. Whereas another person, they'll drop the ball, they won't be responsive, or they're like more of like an a-hole. And so like just when we see your name on the offer sheet, we'll take a lower price from you. Don't tell anybody else this, right? But like but just because like it's like, hey, like we know like you're easy to work with, and like it's something that we will enjoy working with.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot. I don't know if you want to go here with this conversation right now, but I wanted to mirror that back to you in the sense of, you know, I'll say it, and I don't think Kamal High Minds, I bring this up. He has given me a hard time in the past for saying certain things about investors, and me being really choosy about the investors I work with. And it's not the entire investor community. It's, I go into the investor space knowing that I'm working with an investor, or it's a flip or rental property, really, really cautious. Yeah. And it's me just protecting my client, making sure that that investor has good intentions, and there's quality, and there's you know, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed with compliance and all these other things. With you have a similar reputation where people like you, they trust you. I know you produce a certain type of product, and I can go into a transaction with you with that high level of comfort and trust. And then that I think sets the tone for the entire transaction, where we're not on guard the whole time. You know, because we know who we're working with on the other side. So it's a dance, you know, it has to come from both sides.
Well, I mean, so going into that, like give us your experience with investors in general, whether it's in LA or Hawaii. I mean, like there's, I'm sure you have some stories to tell, or some things where like, just as an agent dealing with a lot of investors, there's like, it's just the real estate, like in general, is like a crazy like world, but in real estate investing is like an even crazier world. So.
Yeah. Well, I will say I haven't had any bad experiences here.
Okay.
I've had zero bad experiences here. I've had some that have been kind of like, that was, you know, some aspects of the home were a little bit of a lipstick on a pig job, but that's kind of to be expected with, honestly, any house, not even just an investor. Sometimes it's a DIY homeowner. But in LA, I would say maybe it got to a point, and I stopped working with investors for a period of time. It got to a point where it was like,
on the buy or the sell, like, so were you working with them on the buy or the sell side?
Well, on the buy side, you're going to go with the property that your client wants to go with. You know, on the sell side, you can really control that, right? So representing sellers who were investors, I think it was a combination of bad intentions, like them knowing things, covering things up. So just bad intentions going into the deal, and what ultimately would be a liability for us, for the buyer, and just not an ethical, feel-good thing to do. And just ego, you know, like really hard people to work with who had maybe a little bit of a superiority complex because they were the investor. And I just like to, you know, I have an ethos in my business, and I hope this is okay to say on here, but I don't work with assholes.
That's a good ethos.
And I really stand by that, and I actually speak that out every morning. I have like a list of affirmations I speak out every morning, and that's one of them. And I think there's probably a different way to frame that, where
but I mean, sometimes like there is a different way to frame it, but like it just whatever hits you. Like, you know,
I feel that when I say it, even as I just said it to you, I'm like, I don't work with those kinds of people. I want to work with people who are like-minded and ethical. And I'm okay if someone's really type A and detailed, and they want to pick a deal apart and make sure it's the right thing. That's okay. I don't mean by easy that I don't want that. I mean someone who can trust me, who I can have a healthy level of command with, someone who understands this is a dance, a fiduciary duty, and looking out for their interests, but also making sure the other side needs to feel good too. And so that's kind of my litmus test now when I work with people, you know, everyday buyers and sellers, but also when I work with investors too. And I've been really blessed here to work with people who are good.
So like every morning you have like a morning routine that you go through. Like, what is your morning routine?
Oh man, you want to get into it? Okay. I am the most cliche, like Andrew Huberman podcast listening dude ever. I wake up, I try to wake up with the sun. I have an ice tank. I try to go in the ice tank first thing, or I'll take a cold shower depending on how bold I'm feeling that day. I move my body for 15-20 minutes. I usually do that with weights. I go back into the house. I'll have a quick breakfast. My breakfast is like more paleo style, so a lot of whole foods. I do like myself some white rice, so I'll have rice and eggs sometimes for breakfast. That's what I had today. I'll have like a green smoothie. A lot of this stuff, I'm hanging out with my daughter. So I'll say the alternative to all this is if I go surfing. If I go surfing, it kind of replaces all of that.
Surfing kind of like does the same thing because it moves your body. Yeah. Like it clears your mind. There's a lot of things just like that. But then, so do you read your affirmations every single day? Yeah.
So I write down 3 things I'm grateful for.
Okay.
I write down my 3 big rocks for the day.
Okay.
What are the 3 big things I need to move, and then what is everything that's kind of downstream from those 3 big things. But I try not to get wrapped up too much in the to-do list detail. Like, what are the 3 big things I want to focus on today? And then my 3 affirmations, I say them, I close my eyes. Sometimes I look in the mirror when I say them. I know your audience is probably like, this guy. But I feel it the most when I say it out loud and I repeat it 2 or 3 different times.
Okay. No, I mean, this is really good. So what are that? I mean, if you don't mind sharing.
I'm happy to share. Okay. So one is I create abundance for myself, my clients, my community, my family, and anyone I interact with.
Okay.
I am a peaceful warrior.
Okay.
And my 3rd one is I don't work with assholes.
I love it. I mean, that's like the thing of creme de la creme at the top. Like, I love that last one. Like, I don't work with assholes. I mean, it just kind of like it's so intentional. Like you're designing your life, right? So like whenever like you kind of like say this thing in the morning, you're kind of like setting your perspective, your intention, but you're setting the direction, and like now you have like the roadmap. Like when you veer off, like, okay, actually I'm working with an a-hole, so you can like veer back into like the thing that's important to you.
Yeah, it's for me, it's kind of the anchor in the day, and I'll throw in at the very end, I'll throw in meditation or prayer, and that's the final layer on top of everything. I know that all sounds like it probably takes a long time. It maybe takes me like an hour or 15 altogether. Okay. Yeah.
I feel I've struggled. I've gone back and forth with like morning routines. Like today I'm like, I woke up like 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, just jump in my car and ready to go. Yeah. Like I think it's like just back and forth. I don't know which is the better way, but I mean,
some days are like that though. It's hard to get it in. What do you do on those days where like, do you try and make up for it in the afternoon, or?
I mean, like it's honestly, I feel like it's every day is just like it's its own thing. Like I'll read like some of the like Huberman or like the Miracle Morning things and get inspired for like a month, and then just for me personally, I feel like it doesn't make much big enough difference, I guess. And so I guess it's hard for me to stick with something when I don't see the results. But then like other things where I'm like, okay, like though, I mean, it's easier just because you actually start to see the results.
Yeah. And I totally empathize with that. When I was a kid, having kind of a shaky, well, I'll open up about it. I had a fairly abusive dad growing up. My parents had a lot of battling in the house that I was exposed to. Big family. And we had money, we lost money, had money, lost money. So there's kind of a lot of chaos and a lot of high stress, high cortisol for me as a kid. And I remember one of the only things I felt like I had control over, because kids really desire control and consistency. Yeah. I see that in my daughter now, who's 4.5. It's beautiful to watch. And so for me, the only thing I felt like I could really control was moving my body. And I remember back then, because we didn't have any money, we had milk cartons, and I was doing curls of milk cartons.
How old were you
and pressing. I think I was 13 or 14. Oh, and I was doing push-ups, and I was like doing sprints and stuff like that. I remember even back then it was like 20, 30 minutes a day, and I'd feel really good. And I was starting to see my body change a little bit, and I was starting to see I don't know, I felt more confident, more open, and more.
I mean, there's a physical and psychological things that happen when you exercise, right? Because physically, you get more stamina, you have more energy, you're more clarity, your blood's moving. Like even like sometimes when I feel like tired, I just go for a walk, and then that helps to like give me re-energize. It's weird that you exercise to get energy, but
it is.
But then also psychologically, as your body changing, you become like stronger, more confident. It just it helps on so many different levels. So.
It does, and I think it makes me today. To fast forward today, I'm 39, and the biggest thing for me now is how I show up as a parent. Second to that is how I show up as a friend and a family member, and then third to that is how I show up in my business. And with all 3 of those things, if it weren't for the daily practices with eating well and moving my body, I would feel very lost.
Yeah.
It's like an absolute foundation for me.
Like I said, I teeter back and forth, but whenever I do exercise regularly, I do see a difference. So I think I should just take that information and just like exercise more often, So.
Yeah. The only other thing I'd say to that, and I do like the David Goggins thing on this, is if you don't have or it's Jocko Willink brings this up, but if you don't have 20 minutes or an hour or whatever it is for a workout, he's like, just do 5 push-ups. And we can bring this back to our business with, I'm sure you're still in a spot where you're making calls or you're doing some follow-up with people. Sometimes for me, and even now coaching with my team, it's not about making the 50 calls a day. Sometimes you just start with the 1 call. Sometimes we start with like 5 push-ups, or just break it down smaller and smaller and smaller. So you still get that response in your brain that I just did something that I committed to. I just moved my body with intention. And I think that's why the gym analogies are so burned out. Yeah, because they're the easiest analogy ever for, I made a promise to myself for something and I'm gonna do it this way or this way or this way, and I actually get a result from it. I don't know. It's just funny how in the sales world, it's like there's so many gym analogies in there. You know?
No, I feel like there's a ton of gym analogies. Like dieting and gym, right? There's things like, but it's something that everybody relates to, and so like,
and I think everyone struggles with in their own way. You know,
I mean, it's funny. I mean, like a lot of times when you look at like I feel like successful people, you just imagine that they don't have struggles, or like they don't struggle with the same things that you do. Like, you know, so I mean, like when I look at like a guy like yourself, like very successful real estate agent, it just feels like Jared, like he's like the golden child. He wakes up every day at 5 o'clock or whatever it is. You do your ice bath, you work out, and like you don't have any problems. And like, what are the challenges that you face, like on a daily basis?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the truth, when you were just saying those things about me, what came up for me was massive imposter syndrome. Okay. Because what I really feel, what's underneath all of it, is some anxiety. I have so much going on. In fact, now more than ever, of being one half of a single parent household, of, you know, trying to mend some stuff with my biological family, continuing to try to work on my health, working with a team. I have a real estate team with 6 people. So there's a lot.
How's that going with the real estate team?
It's been amazing, but with anything growth, there is, laying the foundation, which can look and feel very sloppy with a lot of resistance to it. And then building the systems on top of that. We were just talking before we got on about the building kind of downslope of your personal business. Yeah. And then once you build the foundation, it's more of a long play. You almost have to have faith in the process that those things are going to work.
The challenging part, I think, as an entrepreneur is that you don't know if it's gonna work or not. So you're always making these gambles or these informed bets, right? So you're like, I think if I hire somebody, I'll make more money. Yeah. So you hire them and then you don't make more money. But it'll come later, and then later it comes and you don't make more money. And so that's just part of the process. And I think if I do this marketing channel, we'll eventually get more leads. So we'll spend money on a marketing channel and then like no leads. Oh, I have faith it'll grow later, and then it doesn't grow later. So but you're constantly have to make these bets or these investments that sometimes they give you a return, sometimes they don't.
Yeah. And the entrepreneurial, the amount of gut punches that we can, I was talking with a friend about this the other day. I'm like, how many difficult clients or rough deals or financial ups and downs can anybody handle in their life? You know, like how many of those you got in the chamber? And you obviously want to mitigate that and reduce that number as much as you can. But if you are growing and if you are trying to do big things on this planet, within our community, within our industry, there is so much risk attached to that. And there's so much trial by fire. And for me, like coming through, to bring it back to the fitness thing, that stuff does keep me up at night. You know, am I showing up enough for my team? What could I be doing better for my daughter? What's happening with this escrow? What's like 1 a.m. like escrow thoughts are wild. But yeah, I heard someone say this the other day, that a big part of why they work out is to get rid of de-stress, to get rid of a version of themselves that's always there, to like turn the volume down on it. And I'd say that I have a natural propensity to overthink, and I'm very in my head.
So kind of like clear your mind. So like by just like working out, you're moving your body, and like you get to clear some of like the constant noise that's always like inside your head. Yeah,
it's like the volume on it all goes down. It all goes down. So that's those are some of the things I struggle with, you know. I'm also in a chapter right now in my life where, to be totally open with you, I feel kind of lonely with some of my like guy friends and male relationships here. I have a small group of friends, but I don't have a lot of time to give to my friends. And I feel like as sometimes entrepreneurs and people that are very growth minded, you grow, and you can kind of grow yourself into a corner sometimes where you have less to relate with people around you.
Explain that to me.
Well, I feel sometimes when you're on a trajectory of growth, you're changing and you're going through this metamorphosis, and it can be a beautiful thing, but with that, you sometimes will have less things like the experience I'm having right now to have in common with people on a deep level. And you desire that. Yeah. And so I don't know. I do. Like I really desire. Like
everybody desires that.
I don't like to I can talk football and sports and surfing and.
But like your passion right now is like real estate, business, and growing. Yeah. And so I mean, I feel like some of the things happening with me too. So when you're like with your high school buddies, whatever, like everybody's doing the same thing. Like maybe they have kids. They have like they're all like working their jobs. They have like similar kind of like life experiences. Yeah. But as an entrepreneur, it's such a unique experience because, okay, like you're battling with like this escrow, you're trying to overcome this problem. And so like it's so refreshing to like talk to like another entrepreneur like yourself, because I like to hear what you're going through. I like to see like what you're going, because I feel like I can relate to you like in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I agree. And it feels good too. These conversations are really helpful for me because it reminds me that there's other people on the journey, on the path. What's ironic about it is I could talk to you and probably 5 other friends that we have in common that are in this space right now. And I've actually been asking this question to these guys because I really respect them, and I want to just make sure I'm not completely losing my mind. Do you have these feelings of loneliness? Do you have these feelings of separation from the community sometimes because of the work demands, because of the trajectory you're on, and how unique that journey is? And I mean, the answer is yes for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, like
everybody.
It's like the more you kind of scale up, the more success you have. Yeah. The fewer people who are in that like kind of like situation as you. Yeah. So then it is like you want to find people who are peers, or who people are kind of experience the same thing and our level of discomfort or like challenges. And so I think but then that's why I think joining like mentorships or being in community groups or intentionally putting yourself in these rooms or getting coffee with another investor or another people, like it's just really helpful for, at least for me personally, just to have that community of just friendships, so like it's just that, I mean, but it's super important to like make time for, I think.
I totally agree with you. And have fun too. Yeah. I think that's maybe something I was going to ask you that. Like, do you feel like you have enough fun?
I mean, so like the thing is, what I realized, and so like when I reached quote unquote financial freedom, and I was like, I had a fork in the road where, do I want to just live on the beach and do nothing, or do I want to like do something like cool and continue to work? And so I came to this epiphany where like I actually enjoy working, and it's like it's something where it's this weird dynamic where like it's painful, it's stressful, and like keeps me up at night, but then I love it. So like it's just this thing where like if like let's say like you like, and this is like something I imagine sometimes where I don't know, it's kind of morbid, but like let's say like I got disabled, like let's say I lost my eyesight, or like I lost the ability to move or to walk. It's like what would like my life look like, and what would like I wish I could. It's like I wish I could run, I wish I could work, I wish I could do something like meaningful. And so like just if it was taken away from you, I feel like you would appreciate it more. But like just because like in the day to day, like you're like we're kind of like in the grind, it's stressful, like escrow, difficult clients, but at the end of the day, it's like I love the challenge, and I love creating, and I love building. Yeah,
so. Man, that's so good. You ever heard that quote? A healthy man has many goals, but a sick man has only one. Yeah. I love that quote. Just reminds us like it is all about, well, for me, that brings in the only time we have right now is this moment. Everything else is secondary to that. Everything else is future, past. And the only thing we can focus on is this moment. But the switch up there for me that's really complicated is, as entrepreneurs, we have to focus on the future. There's a degree of that has to happen. We have to plan. We have to be proactive. We also have to remember the past. We have to take lessons from the things that we've learned, and also be present. It's like, it's a lot, man. Yeah.
I mean, I think like the challenge is like I think when you step into the world of entrepreneurship, a lot of us go into it because we want freedom. We want like I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to be controlled my schedule. But it's crazy because like when you do step into the world of entrepreneurship and you like are really in it, you have like the most like accountability that you've ever had before, because you're accountable for your own future, your team, like the people around you. And like you have like almost like more responsibility than if you're like in like a job. Like, you know, it's a different kind of responsibility or weight, but it's definitely like a weight on your shoulders. So.
No, I agree. I think a lot of us are built for purpose. A lot of us are built for finding our purpose and acting on that purpose.
Yeah.
I bet you that if Daniel, if we could take you apart and look at all your different motivations and your talents and what you're good at, you would have so many things that you could pursue. Yeah, you know, and I bet you that if you want to call this act 3 of your life of a 10-part act, like I'm excited to see the other things you create, where real estate investing, mentorship, all these things are just an ingredient of that. I look at my life the same way. Yeah. I have so many things I'm passionate about, you know, so many things that drive purpose and motivation for me. And to me, there's never enough time. Yeah. You know, I can't even imagine retiring, what that would look like. You know, I love working. I love what I do. And I love creating, you know, I love photography, filmography. I love being a dad. I love surfing, being in the water.
Life is meant to be lived, right?
Yeah.
Like, life is not meant to just cruise. Life is meant to be lived. And I feel like you're like one of the perfect example of just living it to the fullest. Like, you know, there's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways, but it's a fun journey. It's a crazy ride.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But so Small Bunny Trail, but kind of going back to just like the real estate and investing in general. So like, working with like the real estate investors in Hawaii and like in California, like you're able to see, I feel like, a very unique perspective on just real estate as a wealth building and a wealth preservation tool. Yeah. Like, what are your thoughts in general, just real estate investing versus like, or just in general, you know?
Well, I think here in this market, and obviously this happens all over the country in high price point markets where, you know, the income levels don't typically match even rent. But especially PITI mortgage, right? Of what people's monthly liabilities are going to be. The creativity around house hacking here for even an everyday grassroots, maybe it's their first home that they've bought and they want to house hack it or rent out a Ohana unit or ADU on the property. That's an incredible vehicle to stay in Hawaii and build wealth and build equity. And I think, my experience here has been that that's most of the conversations I'm having with local people born and raised who are
people who are trying to buy their first house.
And they're trying to make it work here. And then on the other side of that spectrum, you have people like you and some other investors that we all know and work with who are in scale mode, you know, and they have arrived on the scene for Hawaii real estate investing, and they have buy and hold investments and flips and everything in between, midterm rentals, STRs. So as an avenue, I would almost say it's almost not even a choice for people to
at this stage in the game.
At this stage in the game, with our prices in Hawaii, our housing availability, everything that's happening with interest rates and market volatility and all this stuff, what rents are doing. I think the amount of education you guys are putting out, and what I try to put out as well to just everyday local people, of how you can stay in Hawaii, how you can get priced back in paradise. Actually, I'm stealing that from Andrea Topola. I think that's vital.
I mean, it's really interesting that you bring this up, because I mean, it's just working through this in my head right now. Is like back in our parents' day, like the single income, you can easily afford a house, provide for your family, like the wife can stay at home, etc. But in today's like market, housing and like living market, is you almost have to become an investor just to afford a house or to survive. You know, it's like it's not even like a choice. It's like, in today's day and age, you have to become an investor just to own real estate and just to make ends meet in Hawaii.
I totally agree. Yeah, the what do they call it? The affordability index is lower than it's ever been in Hawaii for home ownership. You know, less people can afford to own a home than ever before. Yeah. And so I think the way we contribute to that conversation, because there's no price fixing that I'm doing or you're doing, it's the market is appreciating at the level that matches the demand and the supply. And that's just economics 101, right? Yeah. So Hawaii prices are going to be what they're going to be. incomes, who knows what the future looks like for Hawaii incomes. But one thing we do have control over is learning, coaching, teaching about the investment space and how many options people actually have that they might not be aware of, loan products that maybe they didn't think of, ways to, again, leverage or hack the house, subsidize the mortgage. Maybe you keep renting in a location that you love, but you buy investment rental properties outside of that. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it.
I mean, so the downside is it's a lot harder to afford a house or to like kind of survive here today. But the upside or the positive that there's information available. So like if there's so much like opportunity and information for you to absorb, where you can like make better decisions and become a investor, so that you can live in Hawaii and afford to survive over here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that was a great cap on my rambling.
No,
that was good.
Just like the Hawaii market in general, like the future, do you think the prices will come down? Do you think there's any kind of like, what does the future look like as someone who wants to like live in Hawaii, either as a homeowner or an investor?
Well, I think the future for Hawaii is it's going to continue to be, you even look at Hawaii's track record through the 2008-2009 crash, and outside of some pockets on the west side, I'm talking about Oahu. My knowledge on neighboring islands is somewhat limited. I know kind of broad strokes of numbers, but I really know Oahu well. And southwest corridor, so parts of Kapolei, parts of Ewa, even parts of Makakilo, west side, deep west side, and parts of the North Shore, and some of the ridge communities from Hawaii Kai to town, those took a hit during the most dramatic economic doomsday thing ever to happen, which was 2008, 2009 in our lifetime, right? And for the Hawaii market to respond subtly to something like that, and then when we see all this variation with what politics are doing and what's in the media and interest rates and all this stuff that plays a role in buyer demand and prices, you don't see Hawaii fluctuate too much, but you do see a long-term trajectory up. And I think a big reason of that is, first and foremost, Hawaii is, as you know, a jewel on this planet. There will never be another place like Hawaii. We don't have enough land. We don't have enough housing for everybody. The demand is always going to be there. And so just, again, economics 101, supply and demand, I think we're going to see a slow and steady rate of appreciation
just because the demand's always going to be increasing.
And it's multifaceted. It comes from so many angles. You know, we would like to see more local families staying here and investing in Hawaii, but the reality is that combined with people looking at the secondary house market, people from the mainland, even hedge fund investors. There's so many people that look at Hawaii as that is very desirable. I want to be there. I want to invest in that. For better or for worse, that will continue to drive prices.
I mean, the other thing too is like Hawaii is a very unique part of the United States where we are right in the middle of like Asia and the mainland, right? So like we have investors from the U.S. mainland, but also investors from China, Korea, Japan, things. And so like it's almost like an extra market that a lot of places, like let's say like Minnesota or Indianapolis, you're not gonna get the same amount of like traffic from like the Asian countries too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I was just talking to a team member of mine, and he has a listing referral in Palm Springs, California right now. And that's, I don't know much about that market, to be honest with you, but from what I know about it, it's a desert market that's primarily, when I say primarily, it's like 80 to 90% of the people who own there are secondary and third home buyers.
Okay, they're rich people basically.
They're rich people that just go there for a good time.
Okay.
And so a market like that, where you don't have a lot of born and raised people trying to stay there and operate there and conduct business there, that market is flatlining, going down. They're seeing crazy increases in days on market. They're seeing properties move to foreclosure. You can't compare a market like that to really anything we have in Hawaii, you know, because the demand here from the local demographic alone is so high. And again, you combine that with international and national investment, and I'm very bullish on Hawaii being a strong market for many, many, many years to come. I can't think of anything that would interrupt that. Of course, there's going to be little ebbs and flows along the way. I do think, I say this with compassion, I wish there was something more that I could do to help with affordability and access to the housing for people from here. And that's a work in progress. That's a journey that I think we're all on.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ideas on that. I mean, like, but it's such a difficult problem to solve, you know, like and it'll take so many pieces working together in order to solve it. I mean, but it's definitely something that we're like there's like maybe the government can help, maybe like you pull together with your friends and family, but also people like yourselves, like with education, or like the more that you can educate the local community, the more that they can have like use their brains or the tools that's already available to kind of like get into like either a house or to afford to live.
Totally agree. Yeah, they're all ingredients in the soup of, well, better analogy because I'm a Marvel fan. I think we're all an Avenger. You know, we all got our superpower and ways to contribute to the conversation. But I will say, man, 10 years in the game now, 10 years in real estate, I'm so tired of talking about it, and I really want to take more action this year.
Yeah, you're talking about in the affordability side?
In the affordability side and helping to educate. Yeah. So I think on the radar for us going forward and my team, more workshops, more educational-based opportunities, and more events, more networking events where people can get together. And I think the conversation has to be collaborative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is like the next 5 years, 10 years look like for you as an agent, as a team? Like what are your goals?
That's a good question. I wish I had like a succinct, this is what our volume is, this is what we're trying to do with numbers, but I can tell you from a feeling of what I'm trying to accomplish is less stress. I think quality of life is an important thing. Less stress, more systems, more organization, a higher level of quality with the people that we help, continuing to push for that. And I think that will expand out into the brokerage community and move the bar up for everybody. I'd like to be a part of that voice, a part of that change. And just continuing to invest and work here in Hawaii, you know, and be healthy and be happy.
I think it's always a challenge of money, like whether you like it or not, is a big part of all of our lives. Yeah. Like, you know, like it's not the money itself, it's what it gets you, like experiences, time, freedom, and things. But there's always a challenge of like making money and then like having like stress and like the free time. So I was having a conversation with another business owner, and I guess, so he came to a point where he was doing very well financially. And then he was okay, like my next goal is to scale this thing to from here to here, right? And so he had talked with some other business owners, and they're like, hey, like you've already scaled this, how can I do this? And they're like, number one question you have to ask is scaling for you? Because like what it takes to scale from like here to here is a lot of work on your part, right? Like there's like more hours, more like everything involved. And so like at the end of his conversation with these other guys who've already scaled, he's like, actually, they wish they didn't, because they've lost like those 8 years of like pushing like 8 hours a week to get to the level that they had. And the difference in like the income or the lifestyle was not like exponential. It was like incremental. Like, so like whatever you're making now, like if you're not going to it's not going to drastically change your life. Maybe he's like, actually, I decided to actually make less and take like more free time so that I can just like enjoy my life and enjoy the time with my kids or whatever it is. And so it's always like this conundrum of like, where are you at in your journey? Do you want to like put in like all the energy and effort to sacrifice? Because you have to like sacrifice somewhere, right? So like to scale, or do you want to, like, this is like, I'm okay like making less money, but then also I just want to like kind of get my time back. So.
Yeah, man, that's so good. You know, something I've been thinking about lately is actually a good question for you. Where do you think you draw the line of, I have to keep growing this thing? Because I think American business culture is it's always more.
Yeah.
Like what's the ROI this year, and what's the increase in appreciation this year?
Yeah.
And I'm starting to think that can kind of be a fungus rot on a business. I really do, because if we always have the mindset of we need to grow, somewhere along the way we lose quality. We can hurt relationships. We lose kind of connection with ourselves and why we're even doing this thing. If it's always in the forefront for me is I just need to keep growing. I feel like there has to be a line and almost normalization of the conversation that enough is enough if I'm happy and the business is running the way it needs to. That's a super long way of asking. Where do you think that line is in real estate?
I mean, so like I feel like it's like a constant struggle or constantly change like that. I'm like, so there's like times in my short career, I'm like, like this stress is not worth it. I'm just gonna shut everything down. We're just gonna like cruise and just like be like live a very simple life. Like, there's other times where like, dude, I want to make $100 million and I want to like go to the moon. So I think as a business owner or as like an investor, you're kind of always like wrestling with like both sides of the equation, and it's just like there's like no like right answer. I think it's just like what's like your right answer with you, your situation, and like where you're going. But I mean, for me personally, I feel like I want to go. I'm like in growth mode. I think right now, where like we want to go higher and faster. But like maybe in a year, like that all changes. Like it's hard to tell you like really like where like that actual line is. Like,
Do you have kids?
No kids.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
So that probably plays a factor in because I don't have like another like there's no like person I need to like spend time with or like I mean like my wife like so like maybe that obviously that we have enough as long as you have enough time for the wife then but then I know kids are a huge like
if you guys decide to have one or two or three it is the most amazing thing and it is so cool to give some of what we talked about today back to your kids and to watch them take that to plant that seed and nurture it and it's so damn fun to hang out with kids. Like it's so damn fun to hang out with my daughter and go and do things and spend a day. And for me, that's really kind of adjusted my priorities quite a bit. And what's funny about it is it flips my focus that when I'm on and when I'm working and I'm not with her, I'm so on. I'm there. It's like, this is my time. This is dad's time to provide for our family. And so I would just say, man, kids I know people talk about being a distraction and it's hard to build, it's hard to grow, but they can be the biggest enhancer of everything. I'm very pro.
I think the big thing I think is where your focus is. And so I think whenever like so if you're at work or you're like doing your thing, put 100% of your effort into work and like don't focus on your kids at that point in time, right? Then when you go home, shut off everything from work and just focus on like either your wife or your kids or what it is. And it's easy to say but hard to do. But I feel like whenever like I'm at work and I'm just like you just focus on that one thing, like you're way more productive. And then like if you're at home and you're present with like your family, your wife or your kids, then it's way more meaningful and you extract the most out of it. There was like you're thinking about like the escrow or like the clients or the other issues over there.
Yeah, totally agree, man. Totally agree.
Well, so just like last question for you is somebody who wants to become an agent or you see some of the successful like investors or not successful investors, what piece of advice would you give to somebody who wants to kind of build wealth with either an agent or becoming an investor?
Yeah. So for someone that wants to build wealth as a real estate agent, I would say really make sure it's something that you want and don't look at real estate as a way to have more freedom. Okay. Look at real estate as a way to help people and know that to really build your business, because honestly, it really does take between 3 to 5 years for a real estate agent to get off the runway and to really build their business and gain momentum and get referral business and most importantly in Hawaii, build your reputation. People should want to work with you. And so my first thing I would do if I were a new agent, or let's just say I had just gotten my license, education is everything. Okay. Just constantly be reading, constantly be listening to books on tape, I just dated myself, audiobooks, podcasts, whatever. And I felt like Ryan Serhant put this perfectly. And it's the only time I'll prop up $1 million listing guy. But he said, find a mentor that you like, someone that you really respect, that you could see yourself in 5 to 10 years and offer to work for them for free for at least a year. And I think that's incredible advice because going back to the beginning of our conversation, the number one hardship for most real estate agents early in the game is exposure. They don't have enough exposure to transactions, to the deal, to the art of negotiation. And so if you can kind of hack that with watching someone who's experienced and has the client flow and base and all that stuff, that's the way through, but it has to be exposure. So I'd say that for real estate agents. For someone... Well, it's not that different for investors, really. Yeah. Because a lot of it circles around the same stuff. It's
the principles of the ideas are the same. Right?
Principles, ideas are the same. Yeah. Like, what are your intentions? Why do you actually want to go into this? Know that you're going to work really, really hard. Know there's going to be some pitfalls along the way. Like, I would say if there's a way to like a supplement you could take to make the skin on your soul thicker, because you're going to take some gut punches and some ego blows, and all of that is growth. But some of that can be so hard they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. What doesn't kill you can also make you kind of jaded and bitter and paranoid. And so it's not for everybody, you know. The word entrepreneurialism just gets thrown around so candidly, and it does require some. I think that's why the personal development community is so connected neck and neck with what we do, because you have to grow as you're going through this stuff.
They say, I think someone gave this quote, is like the business or entrepreneurship is the best tool for self-development.
Yeah.
Because the business or entrepreneurship, it forces you to develop as a person, or you're going to fail out and die.
Yeah. I heard someone say this one time. I really love this, that we only have 3 mirrors in our lives.
Okay.
Our health, our family, and our business. Everything those 3 are always a mirror to us, you know, and they're honest.
Yeah.
And I think business, especially if you're entrepreneurial or self-employed and you're creating something from nothing, it's the ultimate mirror. There's no one else to point the finger at. There's no one else to blame. So education, intentions, the right kind of mentors, and I'd say that's probably it. I would tie a bow on those 3 things for both agents and investors.
That'll get you very far, I think. Yeah. Very, very far.
Yeah.
Well, it's been fun chatting. If people want to reach out to you or connect with you, what's the best way to do it?
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. And I love what you're up to and what you put out there. And it's an honor to be on here. For reaching out to me, connecting with me, honestly, I think Instagram would be the best way to do it. Yeah, it's at Jared, Jared _ my last name Musser, Musser. So at Jared _ Musser, Instagram. It's a great way to reach out to me. You can also just find me online. You Google me if you want to give me a call. All my info is posted there. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on today, Rob.
Thank you. Appreciate you.